is it more advantageous, I should ask, for someone to sell in a portfolio, i.e., roll up structure kind of sense, or is it more, beneficial for them to? And I think you answered this, but I just want you to bring that home. Or is it
Yep.
maybe that's in some cases better for you to sell an asset by itself? You want to give some insight on that real quick?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I deal with this all the time. There's no right answer to everything. It really answer is it depends. You look at
Come on, Adam. Come on.
well,
Keep it
I'll give
simple.
I'll give two examples of one
Yeah.
in which case it makes a lot of sense. In another instance, it makes almost no sense. Take a market like Miami, Florida, for example, like
Yeah.
in and around the southern east coast of Florida. Home values there so far outpaced rental growth that cap rates got compressed to a point where a property that might have made a good rental unit like 7 years ago, because the price of that unit might have doubled or more, while the price of that rent might have only jumped up by 30% or 40%. A lot of times you're not going to be able to sell to an investor because there's no price even close to fair market value where it's going to throw off a cap rate that's going to give you positive cash flow. So if you own in an area where home price appreciation is so far outpaced rental growth that really there's no good reason outside of just offering the property at a discount, someone would actually buy it as an investment property, that it would make sense selling it as a portfolio. You might look at a one-off sales strategy and thinking about all the friction costs, including vacancy, the headache that brings, and the brokerage commissions and the rehab cost, all of that, it's still going to be worth it for you to sell it retail one-off because you're going to end up making some percentage that is going to be too painful to give away as a portfolio sale. There are other markets around the country, and mostly, we're talking about the top 20 markets where, populations above 1 million people, that rental income growth has kept up, maybe not in lockstep, but kept up close enough to appreciation growth that it still makes sense to sell it as a portfolio. Usually that strategy makes sense when you're talking about a specific kind of asset in a specific kind of price range. Like once you get above generally $300,000 in value, that is the point where the interest from investors tend to trail off as rental properties. So if you're in this kind of sweet spot of right now, like $300,000 all the way down to kind of like the CS properties in like the $50,000 range, generally if you look at what someone's willing to pay for the portfolio, a lot of times it'll make a lot of sense to sell it as a portfolio versus one-off. But again, it's a function of knowing how to price them, knowing where the buyer's appetite is, like walking that really thin line between offering enough value in terms of the discount you're offering and in terms of the cap rate, so that you're not giving up too much, but you're giving up just enough to make someone interested.
No, I think that's great. I don't know if you realize it, but that does. I think we function by having some kind of a model. And I do think that sweet spot, again, we're not going to hold Adam to this number that it's exactly that, but I do believe that gives some context. You were going to add something, Adam.
It does. And this is not like a business principle that's particular to selling real estate.
Yeah.
Any kind of business, you got to have, a deal that makes sense for both parties. I just find it funny, a lot of times when I talk to real estate owners, when the real estate market is so swung in the favor of sellers because inventory is so tight right now, you almost got to get used to the idea that sellers have kind of taken this position that I don't need to give any value because there's no assets out there to buy, and I could ask an extraordinary price and I'll get it. And I said this almost a year ago. I thought it was at the point where the pendulum's going to start swinging the other way. But, we're propped up by extremely cheap debt, low interest rates. And I think it's kind of almost artificially being hung in the seller's favor right now, but it's going to swing the other way when the capital is naturally going to, try to seek out higher returns than they're getting right now. It's just by and large, it's still swinging in the seller's favor because most markets around the country are still in the seller's market.